For almost all of human history, humanity had no combs, no mirrors, no metal, just hands, and a matted tangle of hair that hadn't been touched in days. It sounds unbearable, and yet this was the daily reality for the overwhelming majority of our species' existence. Long before anyone carved a comb from bone or forged a razor from bronze, our ancestors were already grooming every single day for hundreds of thousands of years. So here's the question that should stop you mid-scroll. If the tools we now consider essential are far more recent than most people assume, what were early humans actually doing with their hair, their skin, their bodies for nearly all of human history? The answer involves fingers, teeth, sharpened stone, and, strangest of all, an insect that may have shaped the course of human hygiene more than any tool we ever built. Picture it, no mirrors, no metal, just hands. For a species that has always cared how it looked, that sounds almost impossible. But watch chimpanzees or bonobos in the wild today, and the impossibility dissolves. One animal parts another's fur, working through it, strand by strand, removing debris with astonishing precision. Primatologists call this social grooming, one of the oldest bonding rituals among primates, predating humans by millions of years. And it isn't quick. A single session can stretch on for the better part of an hour, one individual patiently working, the other sitting still, eyes half closed, utterly at ease. That stillness is trust. It's the same trust you feel in a barber's chair today. The hand was the first comb, teeth in some cases the first grooming tool. Now picture an entire family around a fire at dusk, no mirrors, no shampoo, no combs. And yet every evening, without fail, someone sits patiently, working through someone else's hair, untangling knots with their fingers, picking out ash and debris, occasionally pausing to laugh at something said too quietly for the fire to catch. This wasn't a chore. It may have been one of the most reliable moments of closeness in the entire day. But here's where it gets strange. Grooming wasn't only about survival. It was about something closer to identity. Around 100,000 years ago, in a cave on the southern coast of Africa, archaeologists uncovered something unexpected. Pieces of red ochre, shell beads, what looked like the world's oldest cosmetic kit. Christopher Henshelwood and his team, working at Blombos Cave, found the pigment had been deliberately mixed and processed, not accidental staining, but intention. Someone wasn't just surviving. Someone was preparing to be seen. Imagine the last person who ground that ochre. They had hopes, friends, a community waiting outside. And before stepping into it, they wanted to look a certain way, just like we still do, 100,000 years later, standing in front of a mirror we take completely for granted. But here's the strange part. Our species wasn't the only one doing this. Researcher João Zilhao and his team examined shells at Neanderthal sites across the Iberian Peninsula, shells that appear to have held processed pigments, used tens of thousands of years before modern humans even reached Europe. Wait, Neanderthals? Grooming themselves deliberately, symbolically, long before we arrived. If that interpretation holds, self-adornment wasn't a human invention at all. It may have been a shared inheritance, practiced by more than one species of human that ever walked the earth. Suddenly, the question isn't just what did we do without tools? It's how deep into our family tree this instinct actually runs. So how did they actually do it? This is where things get inventive. Flint, freshly knapped, can produce an edge sharper than modern surgical steel. Experimental archaeologists have shown these stone flakes could cut hair cleanly, trimming, shaping, something close to shaving, long before metal blades existed. Sharp shells doubled as tweezers. People likely improvised with fish bones, thorns, and other natural materials whenever they proved useful. None of it was crude in spirit. It was skill, refined over generations, who had never seen a comb and never needed one. A whole invisible toolkit built entirely from what the land happened to offer. Then comes the twist that changes everything you thought you knew. Grooming for early humans wasn't chiefly about vanity. It was about an enemy so small it's almost embarrassing: lice. But here's the strange part. Scientists studying this weren't studying ancient humans at all. They were studying insects. Geneticist Mark Stoneking and colleagues traced the evolutionary split between head lice and body lice. Body lice can only survive in clothing, so the timing of that split gives scientists one of the best estimates for when clothing became common, roughly 170,000 years ago. A parasite's DNA quietly recording a chapter of human history that left no other trace. Wherever there was clothing, there was the itch, the scratching, the desperate need to keep lice under control by any means available. Fingers, fingernails, sharpened twigs, anything that could work through hair, strand by strand. That need never went away, and it's exactly what may have finally pushed humans toward inventing dedicated tools. In 2022, researchers examined a small ivory comb from Tel Lachish in Israel, dated to around 1700 BCE. Faint engraved symbols ran along its surface. When translated, they formed a sentence, a plea for the comb to root out lice from hair and beard. If that reading holds, it may be one of the oldest fully readable sentences ever discovered. Not about gods, not about kings, about lice. After hundreds of thousands of years of grooming with nothing but hands and ingenuity, someone finally carved a tool from ivory and complained about the exact same thing a parent mutters while picking through a child's hair today. Strip away the technology, and grooming was never really about hygiene. It was about connection, a parent working through a child's tangled hair, one friend picking debris from another's back, a community member applying ochre to someone's skin before a ritual none of us will ever witness. Anthropologists studying grooming across primate and human societies note that the physical closeness itself reinforced trust and belonging, the same undercurrent that makes a haircut, even now, feel oddly intimate. Zoom out far enough, and the pattern repeats across the whole span of history. In Bronze Age settlements, medieval villages, modern barbershops that still function, whether anyone names it or not, as places of trust as much as places of transformation. Every civilization that ever existed eventually disappeared. Every empire collapsed. Every language changed beyond recognition. We invented mirrors. We forged metal. We built better combs. But in the end, one small, unremarkable ritual survived every single thing we built to replace it. Fingers moving through another person's hair. A gesture older than cities, older than farming, older than history itself. Long before we built civilization, we learned how to care for each other. Maybe that's the oldest technology we ever invented.